for deployment. We have also received the ballot boxes, the ballot papers for this by-election, which have already been dispatched to our warehouses in Nyandarua County. Yesterday, we completed the training of all the election officials. So our officers are properly trained and they are ready to conduct elections as per the regulations. Of more importance is the issue of the voters register. We have certified the register that will be used in Ol Kalou. That is the voters register. And this register is currently displayed at every polling station so that the citizens of Ol Kalou can verify and check if their names are there and if they are eligible to vote in the respective polling stations. As a commission, we continue working with our partners to offer voter education to the voters of Ol Kalou so that they understand how to exercise their rights. And we continue with stakeholder engagement up to tomorrow, where our team of commissioners will also be in Ol Kalou to meet with stakeholders, to meet with the candidates and their agents so that we agree on the final rules. The Commission reminds all stakeholders that the campaign has officially ended yesterday on Monday, 13th of July 2026 at 6 p.m. in line with the gazetted election timelines. And therefore, we request that any form of campaigning or engagement of voters after that time has ended is prohibited. And anybody engaged in further campaigns contrary to the laws is committing an electoral offense and is in breach of the Electoral Code of Conduct. And as a result, if we find anybody who is engaging in campaigns beyond the gazetted timeline, that person will face the consequences. In terms of the polling day activities, we wish to remind the people of Ol Kalou that all the registered voters in Ol Kalou constituency, they must turn up with their national ID cards that are valid. And for the case of the passport, they must verify and confirm that their passport is valid, it has not expired, because these are the primary documents that will be used to identify each of the eligible voter, each of the voter who is in our digital register. In terms of identification, the actual identification of the voters during that day, from morning when we open the polling stations, once you show up with your ID or your passport that is valid, we shall use the biometric means to identify and authenticate those voters. Biometric means your fingerprints or your facial features, which we have captured in our database. Because the register we are using will be the digital register that is integrated in our KIMS kit. As required by law, we have gazetted the register for Ol Kalou constituency. And that register, I wish to assure the people of Ol Kalou and indeed Kenyans that that register is secure. And we certified that register on 5th of June 2026. So the register is published in the Kenya Gazette. It is a public document. You can access it there. And for those of you who are in Ol Kalou, the register is already displayed in each of the polling stations where you will be voting. So we have several copies that have been printed already and dispatched to those polling stations. And the law requires we do this 7 days before the election. So we have complied with the law. So anybody who claims that the register has been manipulated is spreading false, misleading, and unsupported rumors. So So we urge the citizens to ignore any such persons, be they politicians or activists or any other representative of anybody in this republic. As IEBC, we take the issue of the register seriously, and we make sure that it's only the authentic register that is being used during these elections. That, of course, goes to also the issue of identity cards. We heard through a section of the media, and we have investigated this matter, where certain politician has urged the citizens of Ol Kalou not to show up with their IDs or their passports. That is completely misleading, and that matter the Commission is dealing with it decisively. Opening and closing of the polling stations. Ladies and gentlemen, again, as per the law and our regulations, the polling stations open at 6 a.m. and they close at 5 p.m. And therefore, any station that for one reason or another that is justifiable is not open by 6 and there's a delay, we shall compensate that time which is lost and ensure that those people who turn up and who remain at the polling stations as late as 5 p.m. and they are on the queue, they will be granted the opportunity to continue to exercise their right to elect their member of parliament. So we shall not bar anybody who comes late, as long as you are at the polling station by 5 p.m. latest, in the evening, that is. So anybody who comes past 5 p.m. will not be allowed to join the queue in order to vote. So all those people who are eligible must come between 6 when we open and 5 p.m. when we close. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, and indeed fellow Kenyans, the use of mobile phones in the polling booth is prohibited. You heard some time back when we conducted the elections in other electoral areas, we saw one individual had taken a picture of their ballot paper after voting. They took pictures of the marked ballots and circulated it on the internet. We wish to remind Kenyans and indeed the voters of Ol Kalou that please do not take a picture of your ballot paper once you mark it, once you select the person you want to be your member of parliament. This is because the sanctity and the secrecy of the vote requires that you keep it secret. That's why it's very, very important that we facilitate you to vote by way of secret ballot. So it will defeat the purpose if you again make that ballot public. And it is against Section 7 of the Election Offences Act. You shall actually be prosecuted. And if you are found guilty, you will pay a fine a fine of up to 1 million Kenya shillings. So we need to secure the elections to ensure